Foxx.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank our witnesses for being here today. Dr. Mobbs, it's been 2 years since the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan amid the Biden administration's chaotic and deadly withdrawal from the country. It's been reported that the status of women and girls' rights in Afghanistan has reverted to that of the pre-2002 era when the Taliban last controlled the country, effectively erasing progress on women's rights in the intervening 20 years. Had the Biden administration taken any actions to preserve the gains made for women in Afghanistan?
Unfortunately, no, they have not, ma'am.
Thank you very much. The United States spent nearly $1.8 billion on programs supporting Afghan women and the rule of law. Was that money totally wasted? And are there any efforts the U.S. can take to protect Afghan women and girls that don't involve providing money to the Taliban?
As a U.S. veteran who served in Afghanistan, it's difficult for me to ever comment on the use of funds during our time in Afghanistan, because I don't want to say my time or any of our service time members' time was wasted in Afghanistan. However, unfortunately, the way that we allocated and utilized money in Afghanistan ended up being wasteful and was in pursuit of goals that we could not accomplish. Unfortunately, currently the aid that's also being provided does not have enough protections on it to ensure that it's actually going to humanitarian goals and reaching the people that need it, like starving children and also the education of women and children.
Thank you very much for your service, by the way. Again, Dr. Mobbs, last week, President Biden announced the U.S. would send $100 million in humanitarian assistance to provide humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. The president also warned Hamas not to steal or divert the humanitarian aid that countries around the world are funneling into the region. In your opinion, is there any way to ensure effectively that U.S. taxpayer funds will not be siphoned off by Hamas for its military operations?
The reality is what we've seen is, unfortunately, there's not a highly effective way, as the bulk of humanitarian aid that's gone to Palestine has unfortunately been siphoned off to Hamas through a variety of different means. There's false charities, there's bank accounts set up to do so. It is extremely difficult to do so, and certainly sending out such a large amount of money in a short period of time prevents what would be substantial oversight to ensure it's actually going to where it needs to go, which is with the human rights for the children and the women.
In the current conflict between Israel and Hamas, has Hamas targeted women and girls in its attacks, and how is it targeting them?
Yes, ma'am, of course. They targeted women and children in Israel. They also use schools and hospitals and children as human shields.
Yes, it's really disgusting what is going on there, and I think we should speak out more and more and more, but no one should be assassinated or kidnapped for his or her religious beliefs. No one, I don't care, or their chosen gender or their race or for any reason. And what is happening in Israel, the atrocities committed by Hamas, every member of Congress should speak out against those. Mr. Curry, a country of particular concern is a designation by the Secretary of State of a nation engaged in severe violations of religious freedom under the International Religious Freedom Act. The Trump administration had designated Nigeria as one country of particular concern. However, the Biden administration removed Nigeria from that list. Why did the Biden administration remove Nigeria from the list, and do you believe that the move was warranted?
I do not believe it was warranted. The waivers that are often used on countries of particular concern don't require a reasoning behind it, and I haven't heard any justification as to why Nigeria was removed. But I think that we have to look at these waivers as a whole, because it really weakens the law that was passed that really would allow us to put pressure on these countries that allow religious extremism and persecution.
Thank you very much. I yield back, Mr.